Mr. Speaker, I have listened to my predecessors who spoke before me. I have listened to the budget when the Prime Minister delivered it on Tuesday afternoon. And I have concluded that this budget provides a clear pathway for the continued development of this country. Mr. Speaker, presently, with the entire global economy on its knees due to COVID-19, when the global unemployment is at record levels and livelihoods threatened, our country needs innovative ways to chart the course through these unsettling and raging times. Mr. Speaker, we are in turbulent waters, and this year's budget provides a steady ship so that we could traverse these waters. This budget provides opportunities for Dominicans and it is forward-thinking and is nothing short of excellent, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, from where I sit in the Ministry of Health, I know what COVID-19 has done to our economy and the world's economy. The world has been forced to operate business under difficult circumstances. It has created a new normal that is both unfamiliar and unsettling. Mr. Speaker, had it not been for the effective leadership in this country and the steady, hard-working Honorable Prime Minister, we would have been in turmoil and confusion. In addition, Mr. Speaker, we are fully aware of how Dominica has been in recent times. We have enjoyed unprecedented growth, revolutionary housing that has been the envy of regional partners, and agriculture that has grown leaps and bounds post-Maria. We can boast of a healthcare sector that has surpassed all expectations, a tourism sector investment that can only reap unblemished economic fruits, and social safety nets that keep vulnerable citizens and those that require support encouraged and satisfied, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the vulnerable people in Dominica are receiving what they truly deserve from this government. This government found it fit to see the people that are 70 years and over, had never worked, never earned a pension, never earned any Social Security money, and decided through the goodwill of this government, the Labour Party government, led by Roosevelt Skerrit, to give these people $300 monthly. And this government is the only government in the Caribbean I know doing this. Mr. Speaker, I trust the work of my Prime Minister. I subscribe to his vision, and I will continue with him on the noble quest to develop this country. But, Mr. Speaker, I will zero in on what is most dear to my heart, the health sector. Having worked in the health for several decades, I can appreciate the work of the Ministry of Health. Without the engaging work of the Ministry of Health, things could have been very, very different. Mr. Speaker, because of the efforts and professionalism of Dr. Irving McIntyre and his dedicated team and other frontline ministries, the Ministry of Tourism, the Ministry of National Security, we have been managing this COVID-19 together as a collective team. We have been able to manage this pandemic with zero loss of life. Mr. Speaker, we are in a situation now where several countries wish they were. We have managed this pandemic with zero loss of life. Mr. Speaker, that's how this government, the Labour Party government, has approached all disasters. With promptness, with resilience, and with reliability. As we are being minded by Tropical Storm Erica, we have to remember that, and we have to remember Hurricane Maria before the COVID-19. All these will apply to all of the above. During Hurricane Maria, we saw what the recovery was like. We saw the recovery after post-tropical storm Erica. And now, during the COVID-19, which is a virus, it is not a disaster like a hurricane or an earthquake or a volcano. It is a virus, and this government is showing great leadership. And this leadership is, I suspect, being emulated throughout the Caribbean and possibly the whole world. Mr. Speaker, COVID-19 is a disaster that is unprecedented. It is affecting every sphere of this globe. I looked at the news yesterday, and I saw Austria is imposing its first lockdown since World War II, caused by COVID-19. Since World War II, Austria is now imposing a curfew in this country. This is to show you the magnitude of this COVID-19 on the globe. And Dominica, led by the Honorable Roosevelt Skerrit, is now showing the world exactly how to manage these disasters, including viruses. Mr. Speaker, let me take this moment to thank all my constituents of the Lap and Botica Dailies who have given me the opportunity to represent them in this House. Mr. Speaker, I promised my constituents that I would have given them best representation and undivided attention. And Mr. Speaker, that's exactly what I'm doing. You must remember that the outbreak of COVID-19 virus in Dominica started in my constituency, Lapland, Dailies, and Botica, and zeroed in on the La Roche area. This panic amongst these people, my fellow people in this cabinet, and Dominicans listening, it was not easy. But as parliamentary representative and collectively with my people, we confronted this challenge head-on. And the difficulty, or probably a blessing, it happened just a few months after the general election of 2019. Yes, Mr. Speaker. I couldn't control or avoid this, Mr. Speaker, but just to say that as a team, this government is not stringent in distributing the opposition. The Labour Party government do things differently, and certainly to the benefit of Dominican people and the Commonwealth of Dominica. We are not stuck in history like the opposition and its leadership, who have a clear destruction in their path. In fact, Mr. Speaker, our leader is assertive, forward-thinking, and is very, very, very good in what he's doing. And very transparent as well, sir. Mr. Speaker, we were the first accosted, like I said earlier on, in my constituency with this virus. However, Mr. Speaker, we were not daunted. I was not daunted. With the unwavering support of the Ministry of Health and my entire cabinet members and the constituency, we took this pandemic head-on. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, it is not as if I am just speaking about this pandemic just for speaking's sake. But I must commend our Prime Minister and Honourable Minister of Health, Dr. McIntyre, for their astute leadership in dealing with this pandemic. As a matter of fact, the entire health team must be commended for their committed and diligent work, and all of the frontline workers, including our ministries who helped us along the way. Like I said earlier on, the Ministry of Tourism and the Ministry of National Security. The first responders must also be commended. We owe a lot of gratitude to these people, the nurses, the doctors, the Lapland Health Team, the people who work at the COVID Center in Portsmouth, at the Princess Margaret Hospital, the lab technicians, the people who drove everyone to the COVID Center. We must all commend these people, because without them, that would have been a different story, because we could understand the fear and panic that must have been in the heart of these people. Mr. Speaker, this work could not have been accomplished without our help from the People's Republic of China, Venezuela, and Cuba. the Cuban Sentinel Brigade. And with all this said, we are now at 0 cases in this constituency. We adhered to the guidelines, and we protected ourselves and our comrades in no uncertain terms. We followed the rules, and we did what we had to do. And the Ministry of Health have commended the constituency of Lapland for what they have done in this pandemic. The Lapland people, Boetica people, and Dalis people are now free, and they are now COVID-free, and we are very happy about that. Mr. Speaker, I'm trusting that this country will continue moving forward. We will continue doing what we do. We will continue taking care of our people. We will continue being diligent and listen to our people's concern. Mr. Speaker, this Labour Party government is, in fact, the best government who ever governed this country. And Mr. Speaker, my constituency has benefited tremendously in the last financial year and is poised to benefit in this financial year. So let me outline, Mr. Speaker, some of the development interventions that have taken place in Dalis, Boetica, and Lapland. Presently, under the World Bank-funded Agricultural Livelihood Project, farmers are getting support given to them by the World Bank. A ready source of fertilizers, including organic fertilizers, agrochemicals, and to support our farmers, has been given to the farmers in Lapland. Fertilizers, Mr. Speaker. And over 100 farmers in Lapland, Dalis, and Boetica have profited and have been given material, including cash, from this World Bank program. A number of livestock farmers will benefit and they will continue to benefit under the same World Bank program. Mr. Speaker, the Lapland Agricultural Training Center will be repaired with support from the World Bank funded project to foster greater opportunities for our farmers and to encourage them for further production so that we could feed our people and sell for the outer world. Just to say, Mr. Speaker, that $426,000 has been spent to fix and to put back in order the Dalis Toloma Cooperative building. This building is very important because Toloma, as what we call arrowroot, is one of the main cash crops in Dalis. And this building has been derelict for a while, but this government saw it fit because there is a vibrant Toloma group in the area, and this government gave them money, and they have gotten a local contractor who employed local people to rebuild the Toloma factory and is now controlling the Toloma industry in Dominica. Mr. Speaker, this government has gone further, and there is a bay oil industry in Dalis as well. And we know the bay oil industry brought in well over $1 million last year. And the bay oil distillery was also renovated and is now operating. Mr. Hendricks Williams is the one in charge of this one. And a cost of $458,000 was spent, and a contractor from Dalis itself, too, was given that contract. Jefferson Joseph is his name, and he did a splendid job, and this is now in operation. I was there last week. And this is already showing great benefits for our people. Mr. Speaker, our Honorable Minister for Public Works announced that we are going to do some road works and road repairs in this country. I am happy, Dr. Laville, that you told us that we are going to get this road from Laron Bridge to Dalis repaired and make it very motorable for our people. And under the Constituency Roads project, the Poway Road in Dalis is earmarked for repairs. And we are seeing other roads that needs to be done, but we are going with the Poway Road first. And having said that, in Lapland, every single village road in Lapland was repaired during the last financial year. Every single one of them. And not only that, the roadway from Boadiab to the Lapin Junction, which was in a deplorable state, was also repaired during the last the last financial year. And anyone traversing Poncasset to Lapin in recent times would observe the street lighting that is there. I drove there last night, and let me thank the Honorable Laville again for that job, because the darkness between Poncasset and Lapin was frightening. Anyone who travels this road at night, whether they are driving or not, would be frightened. But we are now driving on the street lamps, and I'm telling you, like I've heard that from other people, there are developed countries who have no street lights in the rural areas, and we should be happy for that. Housing, Mr. Speaker, was touched in Lapin constituency. 66 apartments were built in Lapin and a further 66 in Dalis. And these houses were given to the people of this constituency, and they have asked me to convey their thanks to this honorable house and the member of the Minister of Housing for this generosity. And these people, most of them, were living in some not too good conditions, because Hurricane Maria, we all know, made landfall in the southeast of the island. And Dalis and Lapin was hit very, very hard. But the Ministry of Housing and the government of Dominica, led by Honorable Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit, saw it fit to give the people proper housing. And they have gone further. They have put a hurricane shelter in the building in Dalis. So when there is any hurricane threat or tropical storm threat, the people of Dalis know exactly where they could go. Because there is a large area within the apartment building in Dalis where there is a hurricane shelter. Besides the apartment buildings, there were homes built for individuals. 7 new homes were built in Dalis, and 8 new homes were built in Lapin. So not only did the government provide the housing in apartment form, they also gave them housing at individual form. So people of Dominica must know that the Lapin constituency is receiving its fair share of the pie when it comes to housing and agriculture and every other part of this Dominica government. Mr. Speaker, the children in Lapin and young adults who want to study overseas are not left out. Presently, there are over 10 people from Lapin, students, boys and girls, pursuing studies overseas in universities through scholarships from this government of Dominica. And whilst I'm on that, the Lapin Primary School was named in the first 10 schools during the national assessment. And this result this year is one of the best results in recent times, I can tell you that. And there were a few scholarships given. Diego Blaise received a scholarship, and so did Davidson Beaupierre. And Cody Beaupierre Jr. received scholarships. I want to congratulate them. And in Dalis, also, I want to congratulate Delano Sorrendo, who lost his father in a tragic accident just last year, who received a scholarship, and Tisha Johnson. So our people in the Southeast, in the Lapin constituency to be exact, are now beginning to enjoy the very good education system that is being given by this government. And the Dalis government school is earmarked to be repaired, sponsored by the Canadian government, to a tune of over $1 million in this financial year. The Dalis police station is now under repairs and is now being fitted with a concrete roof to make it hurricane resilient, because during the Hurricane Maria, this police station was damaged badly. But this government have decided to repair the police station and make it better. So the next time around, if we are hit by a hurricane, there will be no renting of any home for the Dalis police station, because it is now being made more resilient The Delis police station is now being repaired to a tune of over $150,000. Mr. Speaker, water has been an issue in the Boisika area for quite some time, and the Delis area as well. But the water supply in Boisika is now being repaired, it's now being done to a tune of $1.3 million. And this water supply will go a long way because, as we know, whenever it rains, everyone in the southeast, including Delis and Lapland and Boisika, the water would always be dirty and there will be shortage of water. But with this new water system, this will be a thing of the past. The Lapland water supply was also upgraded to a tune of $1.4 million, and the intake was increased fivefold. This means that during heavy rains, the storage in the intake will be able to last for long enough so that the Doasco people would repair, and then we will have water in our storage tank we could use. Prior to that, whenever it rains, the pipes will be washed away, and there will be no water for several days. But with the forward-thinking foresight of this government, they have increased that. They have built a new water intake, and the Lapland people will now be enjoying water even if it rains. Because I saw the intake myself, it's a massive intake. Plenty water in gallons. The new Laron Bridge is now in operation. Prior to this bridge in Laron, we all know that whenever it rained, no one could go to Delis or Boisika. No one. Because the bridge was very, very low and narrow. But if you come to Laron now, you could see a massive bridge. And when it rains, all I do is park on the bridge and watch the little river. And I laugh. I go to the bridge, I used to look at the little ravine on the yes.
Honorable Edwards, 10 more minutes.
That's all right. That's okay. The NEP in the Lapland constituency is very, very vibrant. They do the cleaning. In fact, they did all the pre-work, the precautionary work prior to the hurricane season. They cleaned all the drains, the ravines, the overhanging. And presently, under the NEP in Lapland, there are 94 interns. 94 interns. And this is a very great boost to the economy of the Lapland constituency, particularly Boisika and Delis. You can see these people are very enthusiastic. They take their work very seriously. And let me thank the supervisors as well for keeping them diligent at work during these times. Mr. Speaker, let me lend some support to my Kalinago brother, Kozia Frederick, because I heard last night this young senator said that there's nothing being done in the Kalinago territory. But as far as I know, housing, 30 new homes are being built now. Isn't that so? All right. The Lagley Road is now under construction. The Horseback Ridge is now under construction. Inside Bataka, and also the Samuel Road in Atkinson and the Anchizel Road. Wrong or right, Mr. Frederick? Very well, no. So things are being done in the Kalinago territory, and Honorable Frederick will articulate the remainder when he comes. But, Mr. Speaker, I am very happy to be here. I'm thanking the Dominica Labour Party and Honorable Roosevelt Scary for having me run the elections that I won last year. I'm thanking the people of Lapland very much for having me here because they were the one who voted me. I'm asking for God's grace for my continuation as my work as a parliamentary representative for the Lapland constituency. And I am sure that moving forward, there will be more development in Dominica and the Lapland constituency. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to give my unwavering support to this 2020-2021 budget put before this Honorable House. Mr. Speaker, this budget reflects deep thought and consideration and is balanced and far-reaching in my opinion. This is a plan that can not only ease the economic hardship brought on by Hurricane Maria and COVID-19, but it will also steer our country to economic prosperity. Mr. Speaker, these are challenging times. However, this is a government with a strong track record, especially when it comes to maneuvering through times like these. Mr. Speaker, I may be young, but never before have I seen a government go through so much adversity, be it Tropical Storm Erica, Hurricane Maria, and now COVID-19. And it is because of the leadership of our Prime Minister, Honorable Dr. Roosevelt Skerrit, and his hard-working cabinet that we have been triumphant, and we will continue to triumph and propel our country forward today. We are all painfully aware that COVID-19 has taken its toll on the world, causing death, illness, and economic despair. The pandemic has negatively affected global economic growth beyond anything experienced in almost 100 years. It is estimated that the virus could cut global economic growth by 3 to 6% in 2020. Regionally, the impact of COVID has been seen virtually across all sectors, from tourism to manufacturing to health to education and creative industries. Here in Dominica, it is much of the same. Yet still, against this seemingly bleak backdrop, here is a beacon of light, a budget carefully crafted by our visionary leader and Prime Minister. This budget, aptly named The Road to Dynamic Dominica, Fostering Economic Resilience, is poised to positively impact all strata of society. Mr. Speaker, over the last few months, we have witnessed this government's response to COVID-19. And despite what others may say, it has been nothing short of exceptional. Even before the entry of COVID to our shores in March of this year, government sought to engage stakeholders in a national stakeholder consultation on COVID-19. The Ministry of Health, under the leadership of the Honorable Minister, from the get-go, had a firm hand on the handling of this situation. Now, Mr. Speaker, notwithstanding the pandemic and significant cuts to government revenue, absolutely no social program was cut. Public servants kept their jobs. Constructions of various housing projects across the island never ceased. Do you know what you call that, Mr. Speaker? You call that a government whose main focus is the people who they are called on to serve. Mr. Speaker, this is a caring government who sought the repatriation of students, a caring government who provided stipends for students in China caught in the then epicenter of the coronavirus. Mr. Speaker, as the youngest member of this Honorable House, I feel it is my duty to highlight a few aspects of this 2020-2021 budget that speak to opportunities for the youth, who are a critical pillar of dynamic Dominica. I'm talking about opportunities in the new digital economy, opportunities in employment, opportunities in youth programs and business, opportunities in housing, Mr. Speaker, and opportunities in education and personal development. Allow me to elaborate on these opportunities for our young people. the digital economy. Mr. Speaker, this 2020-2021 budget is truly setting our country on a path for a dynamic Dominica. A Dominica set to make inroads in the digital economy. After hearing the Minister of Public Works and the digital economy on Wednesday, it is safe to say that we are already well on our way. Technological change is one of the most disruptive drivers of the future world of work. It generates new jobs and increases the productivity of firms and workers. The digital economy opens a host of new possibilities for our young people. This budgetary allocation of $4 million for the operation of the digital economy ensures that Dominicans will be able to take advantage of these many opportunities. Mr. Speaker, according to the International Labour Organization's Global Youth Employment Study of 2020, and I quote, "Equipping young people with technical skills that are in high demand, together with life skills such as communication and teamwork that enhance their general employability, is crucial, even for non-technical roles such as customer service or sales. Job applicants are increasingly expected to possess digital skills." This is exactly what the Work Online Dominica initiative is all about. Building the capacity of young Dominicans in an effort to make them more competitive in the online job market. The focus on the digital economy is in line with some of the objectives outlined in the National Resilience Development Strategy, which are to promote adaptation and use of science and technology, and to further broaden and deepen integration of Dominica into the region and the world. Now, Mr. Speaker, the NRDS, which is a 10-year plan, will take us to 2030. However, here we are in 2020, and this government is actively working towards achieving these goals. This is testimony to a government which is not only visionary, but action-oriented as well. Mr. Speaker, I wish to turn my attention to the National Employment Program. The NEP continues to provide an avenue for Dominicans to work hard, gain experience, and positively contribute to their institutions and the country by extension. The genesis of this program was to tackle the issue of youth unemployment. This is exactly what this program is doing. Scores of Dominicans have graduated out of this program and have found jobs across all sectors, both in Dominica and out. Today, we have seen the National Employment Program grow by leaps and bounds, impacting positively both public and private sector, and across all levels. Mr. Speaker, the NEP also provides much needed direction for young people in the area of career development. I consider myself a proud product of the National Employment Program. Fresh out of the Dominica State College, I had the opportunity to work as an intern with the then Ministry of Commerce. There, I found my passion for business development. I then left Dominica to further my study, build my knowledge and capacity, and came back to develop my country in that field. Had it not been for the NEP and the direction that it provided me, there is a possibility that I may have never found my true calling. Now, Mr. Speaker, my story is not unique. There are countless other individuals, young people, who have had similar experiences. Persons who entered the world of work, probably interning as a junior accountant, developed a passion and went on to make that their career path. This is just another way that this program continues to impact the lives of so many. The NEP has a budget allocation of $9.5 million. This means that a further $9.5 million will be circulated in the Dominican economy. Many more Dominicans will continue to be positively impacted in their own unique way. Mr. Speaker, I've heard in the past people try to downplay segments of the NEP as less important than others. However, as a young man, I see equal value in everything. Every single job is important. You could be the cleaner or the general manager. Both these positions keep the organization going. The cleanup and beautification teams across the island are a vital component in the development of our country. Our tourism product, for example, when we speak about keeping Dominica clean and green. And at no time should we make these hard-working young men and women feel any less than one of us here in this honorable house. Mr. Speaker, I now turn to youth programs and the Dominica Youth Business Trust, which is indeed very close to my heart. The Ministry of Youth Development and Empowerment, spearheaded by Honorable Minister Dr. Addis King, continues to invest heavily in the development of young people. The $500,000 budget allocation re-emphasizes this fact through the renovation of several youth centers. Through the youth division, young men and women continue to be trained in various competencies. The Youth Skills Training Program gives young people a chance to learn, find employment, or create their own employment. Mr. Speaker, it is a well-known fact that no government can provide jobs for all of its citizens. Now, this government recognized that years ago and launched the Dominica Youth Business Trust as one of its measures to develop viable small businesses. The DYBT plays an integral role in fostering entrepreneurship. The trust has served as a launch pad for a number of successful entrepreneurs over the last 16 years. Through its loan guarantee facility, clients are able to secure loans of amounts not exceeding $20,000. During this past financial year, the DYBT has trained over 100 young entrepreneurs under its various programs. This government continues to support the Dominica Youth Business Trust. Mr. Speaker, in this year's budget, an allocation of $271,000, a grant by the UK Aid Sky Project for the training of 100 young people desirous of becoming entrepreneurs. This project fits well with the government's overall aim of youth employment and empowerment. Mr. Speaker, I wish to turn attention briefly to manufacturing. Mr. Speaker, the removal of VAT and import duties on packaging, labeling, equipment and machinery for manufacturing is of great significance to our manufacturers, many of them who are small, young agro-processors. Mr. Speaker, with respect to agriculture, there has never been a better time for a young person to be involved in agriculture. There is strong support from the Ministry of the Blue and Green Economy, Agriculture, and National Food Security, Mr. Speaker. I wish to turn now to housing. This government has invested tremendously in housing units for Dominicans. Very recently, we saw the handing over of several homes in the East. These families can now sleep well at night, knowing that they have a resilient home, especially as this is an area considered to be fragile. This is a fundamental principle of this Dominican Labour Party government, to make sure that Dominicans feel safe. The massive budget allocation of over $117 million will ensure the continued transformation of our housing sector. Mr. Speaker, in particular, for any young person, there are serious economic benefits to be derived. Imagine a young man now not having to undertake the financial burden of a mortgage. He can now take those savings and invest in productive activities like starting a business or even furthering his personal and professional development. These are the opportunities that we are talking about for youth. Also, we have in this budget for young people, first-time homeowners, a $10,000 grant. Yet again, another opportunity for youth in this country. Mr. Speaker, I wish to turn to education. I wish to reiterate our Honorable Prime Minister's statement and position of the Dominican Labour Party to have one university graduate in every household. There's a reason for this. Studies have shown that there's a direct correlation between the level of education you achieve and your likelihood of finding a job. This government recognizes that obtaining tertiary education allows for young people to become skilled and competent in an increasingly competitive job market. This also increases the overall productive output of our country with the returning of these young, bright Dominican minds. With the over $1.1 million allocated for scholarships and the student support scheme, it is evident that this government is serious about providing opportunities for us youth to further our education. Mr. Speaker, when I hear members on the opposition side of this House try to convince people that nothing is happening in this country, I become a bit bewildered. Right in my own backyard, I can see marvelous things happening in Layu and St. Joseph. The completion of the $2.4 million Layu Emergency Shelter is yet another project. Which will assist in further bolstering our resilience as a nation. People from Layu now have peace of mind, knowing that there is a safe, climate-resilient shelter in the event of any unfortunate weather system. The facility also serves as a venue for various workshops and trainings to be undertaken in the community. I wish to commend the Minister of Public Works, Honorable Kasani Laville, and the parliamentary representative for the St. Joseph Constituency, Honorable Dr. Addis King, for ensuring that this project was completed before the peak of yet another hurricane season. Mr. Speaker, thanks to the outstanding representation of the parliamentary representative for the St. Joseph constituency, as we look to the future for this upcoming fiscal year, several major infrastructural projects, including the York Valley to Pocasset road rehabilitation, are set to materialize. These projects amount to over $13 million. The Honorable Parliamentary Representative will go more in depth. Mr. Speaker, you do not have to look very far to see the success of this Dominica Labour Party government. It is all around us. I follow the programs on GIS, and it excites me to see what is happening in our country. I see the work being done. I see the development of several health centers across the island. I see the support given to farmers. I see the continued improvement of our road network. I see the progress being made in this country, Mr. Speaker, and it excites me. Many times, I sit and I ask myself, had it not been for this DLP administration and the leadership of our Honorable Prime Minister, where would we be? Where would we be in times like these, in the middle of a pandemic and the hurricane season? Mr. Speaker, as I close, I wish to once again express my deepest gratitude, first, to the Honorable Prime Minister for recognizing potential in me and his very kind words at my appointment in February. I would further like to thank the Cabinet for giving me a chance to serve as Senator and Deputy Speaker of this Honorable House. I commit to making a meaningful contribution to this Honorable House and the development of our land, Dominica. Mr. Speaker, seeing the number of young persons sitting on this government side of this Honorable House is both inspiring and encouraging. And it speaks to our Honorable Prime Minister's vision and trust in the youth. The future is bright for our youth, Mr. Speaker. Finally, I wish to leave with this one quote before I end, by famous motivational speaker, Brian Tracy. It sums up the last 5 years of this administration under our Honorable Prime Minister. And I quote, "The true test of leadership is how well you function in a crisis." I repeat, the true test of leadership is how well you function in a crisis. Once again, I support this budget put before this Honorable House. May God continue to bless our Prime Minister and Dominica, especially during this hurricane season. I thank you.
Members of this Honorable House, I realize that some people may have mistakenly have their phones on volume. I think you should look at this. And I would like to take this opportunity to
we should be insist that if anybody's phone rings during this sitting of this parliament, that they should be fined or charged or $500 that will go to either the infirmary or the water home or the education trust fund.
Seconded, Mr. Speaker.
it have been moved and seconded that. We're going to take it serious? Yes, we're putting details together. But honorable members of this House, I wanted to take this opportunity to, before the Honorable Minister for Agriculture delivers, to commend Senator Rule, the youngest member of this Honorable House, and the Deputy Speaker. I wanted to commend him because he is the Deputy Speaker. And as he delivered, I was looking and thinking in regards to the standing orders for any infringement. There was no infringement. He was respectful, well-researched, intellectually sound, and convincing. I'm proud of your delivery. As Deputy Speaker, you set an example there, and I would like you to continue on that trajectory when you are in this Honorable House. Listening to you, I must contend the future is bright for Dominica. I now recognize our Minister for Agriculture, Blue Economy, Green Economy, Agriculture, and National Food Security, the Honorable Fidel Grant, the member for Wesley Constituency. Please deliver.
Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity this morning to present my contribution on the fiscal year 2020-2021. Mr. Speaker, my first order of business is to express a profound gratitude to the frontline workers, the soldiers in this battle against COVID-19, the environmental officers and staff of DASPA who are from my constituency, Mr. Speaker. I salute them. Mr. Speaker, a heartfelt thanks on behalf of my constituency to Dr. Mark and the Ministry of Health, and I thank them for the stellar performance and commitment during this time. Mr. Speaker, as I'm on the subject of COVID-19, when I look around, Mr. Speaker, across the world, it's a struggle containing and controlling the COVID-19. In the first world countries, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, first world countries are struggling. Mr. Speaker, I stand here this morning proud to be a Dominican. But more importantly, Mr. Speaker, I am happy to be in Dominica. Mr. Speaker, PCR tests are delivered within 48 hours. In first world countries, Mr. Speaker, a friend of mine said a while ago, he can't come home because he showed no symptoms and will not be given a test. Mr. Speaker, we must commend the Ministry of Health and the leadership shown by the Honorable Prime Minister for the investments in health. Mr. Speaker, I join my colleagues in expressing a profound thanks to the public officers who prepared this budget, also to the Dominicans of the corporate community and the young people for their contributions. Mr. Speaker, I was fortunate to be a part of a number of discussions which was held with the Prime Minister and other sectors of our society in the preparation of this budget. I am sure that many are pleased today that their visions and ideas have been captured in the estimates for the upcoming fiscal year. Mr. Speaker, I must say that my first experience of the national budget preparation was indeed instructive. For many months we met for long periods, planning, strategizing, and researching on the measures and policies which are practical and empower our citizens for each one of them, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I am confident that we are indeed on the road to a dynamic Dominica. Mr. Speaker, this Labour Party administration will achieve an economic resilience in this country. Mr. Speaker, I would like to thank the Honorable Prime Minister and Minister of Finance for his astute leadership during this process. Mr. Speaker, my sincere gratitude is due to the people of Wesley, Woodford Hill, and Palm Tree for giving me the opportunity to serve in this honorable house. Mr. Speaker, I applaud the hundreds of my constituents who on December 6th voted for progress, voted for strong leadership, voted for a dynamic Dominica by voting for this Dominica Labour Party. Mr. Speaker, I made a promise to the people of my constituency, a commitment that I will help them to achieve. I will work together and we will make the Wesley constituency the beacon of the Northeast. Mr. Speaker, we hit the ground running towards this goal. I am very proud that despite the COVID challenges, Mr. Speaker, during the past 6 months, my people have demonstrated courage and determination. We saw the women sewing group of Woodford Hill providing masks to several companies in Dominica for sale. Mr. Speaker, we saw young men and women who have never thought of agriculture before establish fresh produce plots, poultry farms. Mr. Speaker, as we speak, we have young men who have never before reared goats, rabbits, and Mr. Speaker, we even have ducks in the constituency of Wesley. Ducks. Our women have taken to backyard gardening with a passion, and we are able to sell fresh vegetables, and they are able to earn a living to feed their children. Mr. Speaker, the international airport. Mr. Speaker, the long-awaited international airport will be located in the Wesley constituency. Mr. Speaker, the beacon of the international airport will indeed shine brightly in our constituency. Mr. Speaker, we are ready to make payments to our crop farmers who will be displaced. We are finalizing evaluations for residential and other landowners. Mr. Speaker, this will be an outpouring of blessings for my constituents for generations to come. The opportunities, both directly and indirectly, are endless and even unimaginable in some instances. From the start of construction and for infinity, Mr. Speaker, there will be chances for my people to better their lives through employment at the international airport. Also, Mr. Speaker, they will be able to provide goods and services to this international airport to locals and visitors. On another occasion, Mr. Speaker, we will delve deeper into the details of the international airport, but we look forward to the commencement of work. Mr. Speaker, I would like to express thanks to the farmers, homeowners, and all constituents for their patience and understanding in this matter. Mr. Speaker, I have a responsibility to ensure that my people are treated fairly, and I will work hard for their interests. But, Mr. Speaker, I want to remind my constituents that we will be better off. We will be fine because this Prime Minister listens and acts swiftly. Mr. Speaker, on behalf of my constituents, I would like to thank the Honorable Prime Minister for his relentless pursuit in this international airport. Mr. Speaker, as parliamentary representative, on behalf of my people, I would like to thank the government of the People's Republic of China for partnering with us in the construction of this international airport. Mr. Speaker, when I look around and I have seen what we have benefited from the Chinese government over the last 15 years, most of our most valuable infrastructure, the National Sports Stadium, the West Coast Road, the Dominica-China Friendship Hospital, and now the international airport. Mr. Speaker, I ask myself, can the leader of the opposition continue to mislead his members and the party to denigrate and abuse China? Mr. Speaker, I ask myself, how can that behavior from the opposition be defined as patriotism? Mr. Speaker, not long ago, we saw they accepted an invitation from the People's Republic of China. Free ticket, free accommodation, free food. For a fleeting moment, Mr. Speaker, they sang the praises of China. Mr. Speaker, once they realized that the relationship between the Chinese government and this Dominica Labour Party was intact, they went right back to bashing the Chinese government, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, most recently, the attack resumed at the presentation of the three West Coast bridges. Mr. Speaker, How can you say you love Dominica and behave that way to progress? But, Mr. Speaker, I am comforted and I am confident that this is the kind of immaturity, the kind of ingratitude, the dishonesty which the people of Dominica rejected again in a resounding majority on December 6th. Mr. Speaker, housing. Mr. Speaker, housing has been a major issue in my constituency for several years. When our young women start their families, they construct small homes on family land on often the same plot of land. The reality is that for generations, our young women are unable to go out and command jobs on the market because they have young children and they were not able to complete school. It is a fact, Mr. Speaker, that these young women will not be able to build a decent home for themselves and for their children. The housing revolution started by this Dominica Labour Party was designed to capture and protect these vulnerable people. Mr. Speaker, I am elated. I am happy that we have begun preparation on the Londonderry site for construction of an initial 32, 3, and 4-bedroom units. We will commence construction in the coming weeks, Mr. Speaker. Over 120 people from Wesley will benefit from this program. Mr. Speaker, in Woodford Hill, just 2 weeks ago, I did a walkthrough with the senior minister and other ministers and other assistant staff in the Ministry of Housing, Mr. Speaker, and we'll be constructing another 32, 3, and 4-bedroom units in the village of Woodford Hill, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I have the commitment of the developers and the Minister of Finance that we will utilize local labor to build these units. The contractors and skilled men, laborers will be hired from Wesley, Woodford Hill, and Palm Tree. Mr. Speaker, I therefore take this opportunity to urge the young men of my constituency, the electricians, the plumbers, the masons, please sharpen your skills. We have work to do. Mr. Speaker, we are in the hurricane season, and I must express profound thanks to the Honorable Prime Minister and Minister for Finance for making available funds for us to complete construction of homes and strengthen roofs where possible during this hurricane season. Mr. Speaker, we have begun work, and these projects will be done by contractors and laborers and skilled men of the Wesley constituency. Mr. Speaker, the Wesley constituency is on a path of transformation, and we will certainly be part of a dynamic Dominica. Mr. Speaker, I am filled with pride this morning to announce the first ever National Model Farm will be in the Wesley constituency. Mr. Speaker, we have some of the most fertile land in this country. Mr. Speaker, under my stewardship, I will work with our young people to return to the farm to create opportunities for themselves and make a decent living from the land. Mr. Speaker, we have already received a donation of 7 greenhouses from the People's Republic of China, Mr. Speaker, and I must at this time pause to express my profound gratitude to the Chinese Technical Mission at 1 Mile. Mr. Son and Sabrina and the rest of the guys have been most helpful in providing technical assistance to the farmers of Dominica. Mr. Speaker, the model farm will start with an initial 12 acres of land and eventually move to occupy another 40 acres. Mr. Speaker, within 2 weeks, we will begin clearing and preparation work. Mr. Speaker, we will partner with the Chinese mission and the World Bank to provide technical support for this model farm. On the model farm, Mr. Speaker, we will utilize modern practices and ensure that we have a consistent supply of crops like ginger, turmeric, and a wide variety of spices, vegetables, and fruits, which are traditionally deemed as seasonal crops. Mr. Speaker, we are partnering with the Ministry of Tourism to make this model farm an agri-tourism site, where locals as well as tourists can walk through the farm to gain an experience of planting, harvesting, experience picking and eating fresh fruits and vegetables, and explore the farm. Mr. Speaker, on the model farm, visitors will be able to choose from the herbs and spices available and have their tea brewed on site. Mr. Speaker, tourists will also have the option of selecting fruits and vegetables and create fresh vegetable salads, fruit bowls, fruit juices, and smoothies. Mr. Speaker, visitors will also be able to purchase meals cooked from fresh produce and meat from the farm. Mr. Speaker, this model farm will create employment for the people of my constituency directly and indirectly. Initially, we'll employ 20 persons and expand as time goes by. The activities on the farm will stimulate the local economy through the sale and purchases of produce from the farm, Mr. Speaker. There will be a circulation of foreign currency once the farm begins to operate as a tourist site. Mr. Speaker, there is considerable potential to be harnessed from the model farm. Mr. Speaker, I submit to you today that this is an example of fostering economic resilience. Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Member for Granby has indicated he wants to get rose breadfruit on that farm as well. Mr. Speaker, I have had profound discussion with the farmers in my constituency. Over the last 3 months, Mr. Speaker, we have made in excess of 1,000 bags of fertilizer available to the farmers of Wesley, Woodford Hill, and Palm Tree. Mr. Speaker, I have met with my farmers. We have identified both short and long-term plans for their benefit. Mr. Speaker, we have heard much talk as it relates to feeder roads. Mr. Speaker, the repair of farm access roads will be on our agenda during this financial year as a government, but as the parliamentary representative for the Wesley constituency, Mr. Speaker, I have forged a collaboration with the Renault, the construction company which is operating out of Londonderry, Mr. Speaker. They have agreed to assist in making more access available to our farms, Mr. Speaker. One of the most productive areas in Wesley, an area we call Mango Gutter, is already under construction and should be completed very soon. Mr. Speaker, we have also seen the rehabilitation of Paradise View Road. We have also seen the complete resurfacing of the Sparrow Junction to Joe Burton Road and the complete resurfacing of the much talked about Woodford Hill Main Road. Mr. Speaker, one of the requests from my constituents is that we form a productive cooperative. Therefore, I have engaged a cooperative division over the last few weeks, and we have begun training in the Wesley and Woodford Hill area, Mr. Speaker. Soon we'll establish a full-fledged cooperative which will comprise of farmers, fisherfolk, seamstresses, shop and restaurants owner, among others. Mr. Speaker, we intend, through the cooperative to seek grant and funding from external organizations, especially for our women farmers and our entrepreneurs. Mr. Speaker, at this time I would like to express my profound thanks to Ms. Canoville and the staff of the cooperative division for the guidance and support that they have provided through this process. Mr. Speaker, there is renewed energy and hope in the Wesley constituency. Our fresh produce market, Mr. Speaker. This is one of the commitments I made during the 2009 campaign. Mr. Speaker, our farmers will be happy to note that I'm currently in positive discussion with 2 landowners. We are in pursuit of a lease for our fresh produce market. I have already received an assurance from the Honorable Prime Minister and Minister of Finance that provisions will be made for payment of rent for the facility or for purchase of this land. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, we will have fresh pork, fresh chicken, beef, rabbit, goat, and a wide variety of meat available at this market. We will also have fresh vegetables and other fresh produce made available. Imagine, Mr. Speaker, the vast amount of benefits my people will be derived from this fresh market. Our women will be in a position to earn money on a daily basis. Our small agri-producers will be able to have their products, on full display. Constituents will therefore have an opportunity to form linkages with hucksters and exporters to boost their production. Mr. Speaker, we are serious about fostering economic resilience. This is an example of empowerment and transforming lives for the betterment. Mr. Speaker, our sporting facilities. Mr. Speaker, our sporting facilities in this fiscal year will see some upgrade. The rims for the Wesley basketball hard court has been shipped and will be on island within 2 weeks. Mr. Speaker, the Woodford Hill basketball court, funds are available for purchase of rims and resurfacing of the hard court. Mr. Speaker, we heard the leader of the opposition spoke about the Londonderry playing field. Mr. Speaker, over the last year, I have been responsible for cutting and maintaining that field. We recently experienced some difficulties with the machine, but Mr. Speaker, I stand here proud to inform the young men and women of the constituency that we have procured a heavy-duty lawnmower, and it will be used for the maintenance of the Londonderry playing field, and the cricket pitch will be restored. Mr. Speaker, 2 weeks ago, I met with the Basic Needs Trust Fund, the PS in Sports, and the Minister of Sports, and I would like to assure the Woodford Hill people, Mr. Speaker, we will continue work on the Woodford Hill playing field, and we heard from the Minister of Sport last night. This is in the tune of $700,000. Mr. Speaker, our state-of-the-art health center will be completed in August 2020. Last night, we heard from the Minister of Health about the progress, the capabilities, and the services which will be offered at that health center. Mr. Speaker, on behalf of my constituency again, Mr. Speaker, I would like to thank the Honorable Prime Minister and the Ministry of Health for the timely intervention of healthcare in the Wesley constituency. Mr. Speaker, I have met with some of my senior citizens. I have met with the village council, and they have expressed an interest in utilizing the old health center. Today, I stand proud to inform them that we have received the commitment from the Honorable Prime Minister that the senior citizens can and will be given the option to use the center for activities. Mr. Speaker, this is one of the commitments that I have made to my people, and I am happy that I'm able to fulfill this commitment to them. Mr. Speaker, education. Mr. Speaker, presently, we have over 20 students from my constituency who are at different universities, and largely due to the financial aid they receive from this government. These students are now in a position to help themselves, their mothers, and brothers and sisters into the future. The NEP, Yes We Care, and the 70-plus pension, Mr. Speaker, these are programs that are considered by many in my constituency as God-sent. Mr. Speaker, my constituency is one where many of the people who are under this Yes We Care and 70 pension program worked as laborers and farmers. They did not have the ability to save money for the twilight years of their lives, and in many cases depend solely on the benefits of these programs for their day-to-day living. On behalf of my constituency, Mr. Speaker, I express deep gratitude to the Honorable Prime Minister for the vision in implementing these social programs, and I assure my constituents that this Labour Party administration prides itself on taking care of the vulnerable, the less fortunate. So despite the challenges, Mr. Speaker, we will find a way to reach you and help carry you. Mr. Speaker, this government will continue its commitment to maintaining all social programs during this fiscal year. Mr. Speaker, care packages. Mr. Speaker, over the last month, I have been fortunate to receive on behalf of the constituents over 1,000 care packages, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, This was distributed to the constituents of the Wesley constituency. Mr. Speaker, note that I said constituents and not labor rights, because we in this Labour Party continue to practice our motto, all shall eat. So, Mr. Speaker, on behalf of my constituents, I thank the Honourable Prime Minister for his timely intervention which has been made to our homes and our families during this COVID period. Mr. Speaker, COVID-19 has restricted our movement, and the people of Wesley Wood Foothill continue to show that they have the energy to persevere during this fiscal period. We will continue to see great things happen in this constituency. Mr. Speaker, I commit to my people that we will create sustainable jobs for them in the constituency. Mr. Speaker, thanks to the policies and programs of this administration, we will make good on these promises. Mr. Speaker, the Wesley constituency will grow with dynamic Dominica. Mr. Speaker, I now turn my attention to the Ministry of Agriculture. Mr. Speaker, at this point in my presentation, I will speak to some of the achievements of this Labour Party administration as it relates to agriculture during the last financial year. Mr. Speaker, our agriculture sector remains one of the strongest and most dominant in the region. Our produce and products from agro-processing are of the highest quantity, and there is an increasing demand. Mr. Speaker, as a new minister, I went out to learn what is happening within the industry. And Mr. Speaker, the information that I received is very frightening. We are talking about tens of millions of dollars that is circulating in our economy for agriculture. Mr. Speaker, at this time, I would like to urge Dominicans, especially our young men and women, to go back to the land. There is money to be made, and we, within the Ministry of Agriculture, is here to help you. Mr. Speaker, I was encouraged by this information because it confirmed what we know. The investments made by this government into agriculture is bearing fruit, but most importantly, money is being made, and there is much more money to be made in agriculture in Dominica. Mr. Speaker, the opposition continues with their message of doom and gloom. To pronounce that this government is not investing in agriculture, but the records show differently. They ignore the information or they refuse to provide the people with accurate data. Mr. Speaker, there is a multitude of concessions and assistance available to farmers. This government has created an environment where the farmer can prosper, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the VAT Act of 2008. This piece of legislation, Mr. Speaker, exempts hundreds of farming and fishing items, seedlings, cuttings, fertilizer, machine, other equipment used, greenhouse. Mr. Speaker, it's a long list. And they are all exempt from VAT, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as the Minister for Agriculture, I am proud when I drive the roads and I see FA on the license plate of many vehicles, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in the last 5 years, the government has foregone revenue just over $4 million on farm vehicles alone. Mr. Speaker, a farmer interested in buying a new pickup will qualify for a savings of $30,000 to $35,000, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, over the years, a number of farmers have accessed loans from the aid bank at 2% and 0%. Mr. Speaker, these are just some of the concessions that are available to farmers in Dominica. Mr. Speaker, these investments are bearing fruit. We are recording constant increases in production. Mr. Speaker, through the ministry's input and support, we have provided quality seeds as well as technical assistance. Mr. Speaker, we have seen production increase by 16.7% from 2018 versus 2018-2019. 2019, Mr. Speaker, 2020. Mr. Speaker, if you have an increase in production, you have an increase in revenue. Mr. Speaker, coupled with the increase in production and the increase in revenue, I am happy to report that we have seen an increase in the number of persons farming. For the period 2018 to 2019, we had 2,581 active farmers. Mr. Speaker, 2019-2020, we have recorded 2,748 farmers, an increase of 6% over a one-year period. Mr. Speaker, just in my constituency, a number of people have taken to farming and livestock. I am certain that we will see a significant increase in this fiscal year. Mr. Speaker, livestock production. We have seen sales in the abattoir for broilers, to the tune of over 300,000 in the last fiscal year. We have seen sales as it relates to pig, Mr. Speaker, in excess of $355,000. Mr. Speaker, if you notice, I have one common theme: increase, increase, increase. Mr. Speaker, on Tuesday, the Prime Minister offered the abattoir at a lease of $1. Mr. Speaker, since that announcement, I have received one international call, one regional call, and 2 local calls expressing interest in the abattoir. Mr. Speaker, we are not surprised that we are reaping increases because we are aggressively invested in the industry. Mr. Speaker, during the last financial year, 2019-2020, we distributed just over 400 tons of fertilizer to the farmers across the country. Mr. Speaker, I would like to pause to express my thanks to the government of Morocco for their continued support in this program. Mr. Speaker, passion fruit wire, water drums, knapsack, rabbit wire, barbed wire, sheep and goat fencing wire. Mr. Speaker, the items I have just listed total just over $3 million, Mr. Speaker. That is a saving to the farmers. That is an investment in the agriculture industry, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we hear often about tree crops and the extension of a program. Mr. Speaker, in the last fiscal year, under the tree crop expansion program, the ministry has distributed 26 varieties of seedlings, over 1,900 avocado plants, 5,000 cocoa plants, over 4,000 citrus plants, 1,000 dwarf nut plants, Mr. Speaker. The value of these plants and the saving to farmers, Mr. Speaker, is in excess of $700,000. Mr. Speaker, for an entire year, the member of Marigot is making a lot of noise, spelling out large numbers about his, and I repeat, his opinion on the allocation and use of the proceeds from CBI. Mr. Speaker, so too the member for Salisbury. Where is he today, Mr. Speaker? Is he on Facebook? Where can we find him today, Mr. Speaker? He's always speaking of doom and gloom of the industry. And where is he today, Mr. Speaker? No one knows. But, Mr. Speaker, it's interesting to note that out of the 7 members on the opposition side, Mr. Speaker, none have visited the project implementation unit of the World Bank project. They have not inquired as to how farmers in their constituency can benefit. I have not received one call or one request from any member of the opposition expressing or pleading for assistance for their farmers in this COVID period, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, Are they interested in the facts? Is it simply that they lack the ability to read and understand the facts, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, this government will not be distracted in its mission to make the economy stronger and more competitive. The World Bank project, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, one of the major interventions by the Honorable Prime Minister post-Hurricane Maria was securing from the World Bank part grant, part loan in the amount of $67.5 million just for agriculture, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I am pleased to report that this program has already started to yield benefits for our economy and are changing the lives of farmers and their families. Mr. Speaker, I will just highlight a few of the program's achievements to date. Mr. Speaker, we have distributed over 912 small and motorized equipment, totaling a value of $379,000. We have distributed over 45,000 bags of fertilizer at a value of $4 million. Mr. Speaker, in this fiscal year, we are expecting $5.9 million worth of small tools to be distributed amongst our farmers. Mr. Speaker, the work will continue during this fiscal year 2020-2021. Mr. Speaker, we'll transform and modernize this agriculture industry as we build resilience. Mr. Speaker, $32 million has been allocated under the Public Sector Investment Program for the ministry. Mr. Speaker, this is a significant increase over last year. We will continue to support our farmers during this COVID period. Mr. Speaker, some of the interventions that we have made during this COVID period includes 1,000 micro farmers will receive seedlings, fertilizer, tools, and agrochemicals valued at $500 per household. Mr. Speaker, farmers will receive a cash grant for small farmers of $700, medium farmers $1,400, large farmers will receive $2,800. Mr. Speaker, the budget for this component is estimated at a value of $3.5 million. Mr. Speaker, I am pleased to inform this Honorable House that a few weeks ago, over $500,000 was paid to over 300 farmers already, and this money, Mr. Speaker, is in their account. Mr. Speaker, the member for Marigot indicated that the program was political. But as usual, the member would not be able to point out one example of discrimination. Mr. Speaker, I will again reiterate that this process is free from any political interference, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as I stand here this morning, we have 0 outstanding grievances filed by the farmers of Dominica against this project. Mr. Speaker, what this means is that the farmers are satisfied. Mr. Speaker, the member from Marigot, if he's interested, he can collect grievance forms at the Fisheries complex in Marigot, at the Extension office, and guide the farmers that he feels that have been aggrieved. Mr. Speaker, I will now turn my attention to infrastructural development and strengthening. Mr. Speaker, a key focus in this financial year is for us to modernize and restore key productive infrastructure and institutional strengthening. These interventions will be evident across the country. Tissue culture facility, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, very soon we will commence construction of a tissue culture facility at 1 Mile. This project will be financed with a grant, Mr. Speaker, of $13 million from the People's Republic of China. Mr. Speaker, we thank the government of the People's Republic of China and the Chinese Agricultural Mission for their continued partnership and contribution to the agricultural sector in Dominica. Mr. Speaker, this facility will result in improved quality and quantity of plants and material. Mr. Speaker, the multi-purpose pack house. This is another key infrastructure for the industry. As we continue to aggressively pursue new markets and seek to maintain our traditional markets, we appreciate the need to maintain the quality of our produce for export. Mr. Speaker, the pack house has already processed $2.9 million worth of fresh produce in the 2019-2020 fiscal year. And Mr. Speaker, for this year, they have already, as we have heard from the Minister of Trade, processed $1.4 million in fresh produce. This is an additional $2.5 million that has been allocated to improve and expand the operation of the pack house. Mr. Speaker, we will also see the restoration of the Central Livestock Farm located in my constituency. This facility is where farmers can purchase animals at reduced prices and receive other associated services. During this fiscal year, we will restore the structures on the farm and improve on the services which we provide to our farmers. Mr. Speaker, the member for Marigot also indicated that we have no office for the Northeast Agricultural Division, Mr. Speaker. I would like to inform the honorable member for Marigot that due to Maria, we are currently housed at the Fisheries complex upstairs. But Mr. Speaker, it's important that I inform this honorable House that we have already received the preliminary designs for the new agricultural office to be built in my constituency at Londonderry. Mr. Speaker, the Woodford Hill Agricultural Station is also in my constituency. It is yet another significant piece of infrastructure. Mr. Speaker, this propagation center is equipped with modern machinery and equipment. Funding for this facility was made possible through the OECS through a grant of an estimated €294,000. Mr. Speaker, this station is a modern facility which is equipped with renewable sources of wind and PV, making it self-sufficient. Mr. Speaker, this facility is located on a portion just over 40 acres, which will be developed as part of the National Model Farm Project in my constituency. Mr. Speaker, one cycle, the facility has the capacity to propagate 25,000 cocoa plants, 5,000 avocado plants, 100 nutmeg plants, and a number of other crops, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we have recently established 2 acres of avocados, cocoa, and will continue with our expansion project, Mr. Speaker. We are currently preparing to establish 2 acres and 1 acre respectively of germplasm plots for coconut and assorted mangoes. Mr. Speaker, the ministry suffered significantly post-Maria with the availability of planting material. Therefore, the establishment of germplasm plots will alleviate this shortfall significantly moving forward. Mr. Speaker, this facility will also become a model center for excellence in the demonstration of disaster risk management techniques. Mr. Speaker, presently we have a staff complement of 8, and I would like to express my thanks to our chief propagator, Mr. Joseph Blanford, and his assistant, Mr. Ivan Ferrara, for the work that they have been doing, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I am proud to also inform this honorable House that as we continue to move forward with propagation, 3 young persons from Woodford Hill will begin training at the facility in propagation, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, when I heard the member for Marigot announce that there is no propagation facility in Wesley, I wondered to myself, is this a calculated attempt to mislead, Mr. Speaker? Is it an uncontrollable characteristic of deception? But what behavior is this? It has not worked for 2 elections, Mr. Speaker, and the Dominican public will continue to reject it. Mr. Speaker, the propagation and hardening facility at Londonderry, Mr. Speaker, will be rehabilitated in this financial year. the cocoa and drying facility. This facility, Mr. Speaker, is 80% complete and will provide significant support for the cocoa industry, which is blossoming again. Mr. Speaker, the hatchery at Belfast. This hatchery will be completed very soon. At this facility, we'll engage in aquaculture, Mr. Speaker. We'll produce prawns and other freshwater species to support our farmers at concessionary rates. Direct infrastructure support and farmers and boost to our engines and fisher folk, Mr. Speaker. Our farmers will receive direct support under the component of the World Bank project, which we would see the replace and rehabilitation of damaged animal housing, Mr. Speaker. We also will see the replacement of boats and engines for our farmers who have been affected. We experienced some delays due to COVID, Mr. Speaker, but I'm happy to report that we have made some progress and we are expecting engines on island very soon for these farmers. Mr. Speaker, training. As part of our institutional strengthening, it is important that we build staff morale and capacity. In this regard, we have engaged the University of the West Indies to provide and design programs to support our extension officers, Mr. Speaker, and this will be implemented in this fiscal year. Mr. Speaker, as I end my deliberation on investments in the infrastructure strengthening, I have lost count. But, Mr. Speaker, I'm not sure if it's 10, 11 of these facilities that will be restored in this financial year. Mr. Speaker, I think this is significant and we should pay special attention to this, and the farmers and fisher folk of this country will benefit significantly. Mr. Speaker, the blue economy. The blue economy is a new term to our ministerial portfolio.
Honourable Minister, 20 more minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the blue economy is a new term to our ministerial portfolio, but Mr. Speaker, this government has always recognized the importance of ocean and marine life to our economy. Mr. Speaker, we have had fruitful discussions just this week with Baroness Scotland of the Commonwealth, National Geographic, and many other organizations who have expressed interest in working with the Commonwealth of Dominica in building its blue economy. Mr. Speaker, earlier this week we heard about the reduction in fish. Mr. Speaker, as Minister responsible for fisheries, Mr. Speaker, I can say there is no doubt that the investments of this government, Mr. Speaker, are bearing fruit. Mr. Speaker, the investment in fads, the investment in boats, the investments in engines. Mr. Speaker, for the first time, we have exported just over 22,000 tons of fish to various countries, including the US and the UK. Mr. Speaker, these exports have yielded just over $250,000 to our fisher folk. Mr. Speaker, as we speak, we have commenced preparatory work on the Roseau Fisheries Complex as well as the Marigot Fisheries Complex, Mr. Speaker. This is to the tune of $27 million, a gift from the Japanese government, Mr. Speaker, and I would like to express my thanks as Minister responsible to the Japanese government. Mr. Speaker, we will see the modernizing and increased storage and preparation of fish at these facilities. Mr. Speaker, the ministry has spent in excess of $300,000 replacing and purchasing ice machines and coolers for the Newtown facility, Ansdime, and Saint-Sauveur facilities, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Fauquelet Fisheries Complex is nearing completion and will be completed in this fiscal year. Mr. Speaker, the introduction of information technology into agriculture. Mr. Speaker, our commitment is to move this industry into modern times, using new techniques and technologies. Mr. Speaker, as we speak, we have a hydroponics and aquaponics specialist consultant from the FAO, Mr. Speaker, and I would like to express my thanks to Ms. Mia April for her services. Mr. Speaker, we are moving along with the digital economy, and we will be participating, Mr. Speaker, as the Ministry of Agriculture fully. As we speak, Mr. Speaker, we have already deployed tablets to our extension officers. Mr. Speaker, we are now in process of using drones to visit our farms, Mr. Speaker, and I would like to thank Mr. Chad George for his assistance during this process. Mr. Speaker, we are also developing a state-of-the-art management system for our farmers and fresh produce. I would just like to inform Senator Masley that we got this. This financial year will be an exciting one for all stakeholders, particularly the young people interested in creating employment opportunities in the agriculture industry. During this period, Mr. Speaker, my ministry and this government will place significant focus on high-value crops like ginger and turmeric. Mr. Speaker, during this financial year, we will make available just over 25,000 cocoa plants to our farmers. Mr. Speaker, we will increase cocoa production on the island to ensure that beans are consistently available for local consumption and export over the next 3 years. Mr. Speaker, during this financial year, we will pursue the establishment of estate-type farms. These are farms, Mr. Speaker, in excess of 3 acres. A farmer who has 3 acres or more of passion fruit, pineapple, watermelon, sweet and seasoning peppers, cantaloupe, beet, squash, and broccoli, for examples, Mr. Speaker, we will provide special assistance to ensure that we have a consistent supply, consistent quality available on the local and regional markets, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I move now to agro-processing. Mr. Speaker, we know that agro-processing and agriculture production goes hand in hand. Mr. Speaker, fruits and vegetables in the raw and processed form are in high demand regionally and internationally. The aim of the ministry is ultimately to establish fruit farms across the country, where these fruits will be available year-round for local and export. In this regard, Mr. Speaker, we have commissioned propagation of over 5,000 fruit trees, cherries, guavas, soursop, green apple, carambola, guava cherry, to name a few. We will make over 6,000 citrus plants, Madam Speaker, available to our farmers. Mr. Speaker, we will provide the support and incentives. We will simply supply all that is necessary, especially to the young people who share the vision to take advantage of these opportunities. Mr. Speaker, during this financial year, the ministry will go out on an aggressive campaign to ensure our young people are back in agriculture. Mr. Speaker, I would like to thank the Minister for Education for her support in this regard as we partner to reintroduce aggressively, Mr. Speaker, in our schools, agriculture. Mr. Speaker, when one speaks of stimulating the economy or creating jobs, these are the interventions which foster growth. Therefore, during this financial year, we have removed the import duty and VAT on packaging material, plant equipment, and machinery for manufacturers. Mr. Speaker, the government is creating a ripe environment for the creation and strengthening of the cottage industries. Mr. Speaker, imagine you have 100 small factories or processing plants, Mr. Speaker, employing just 3 persons. This, Madam Speaker, equates to 300 sustainable jobs. Mr. Speaker, cocoa is a multi-million industry locally, Mr. Speaker. As it speaks, Mr. Speaker, we are importing in excess of $1.5 million of cocoa annually, Mr. Speaker, but the ministry are taking aggressive steps to have this reduced in the coming years, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, there is money to be made, and money to be made from the processing of our cocoa beans. Mr. Speaker, this Labour Party can boast of the construction of 7 processing facilities at a cost of $1.6 million, Mr. Speaker. 2 agro-processing facilities were built at Daly Sis to support Toloma and Bay oil producers. 5 cassava producing facilities in Salivier, Atkinson, Sensi, Cassiroos, and Kalibishi are nearing completion, Mr. Speaker. This will benefit just over 150 farmers and producers. Mr. Speaker, we heard Senator Thomas describe herself over and over yesterday as a proud Kalinago. But Mr. Speaker, not once she made mention of any of these facilities within her constituency. So, Mr. Speaker, I must question the honesty, integrity, and the credibility of my schoolmate, Senator Thomas. Mr. Speaker, during the COVID period, we have seen a major demand for honey, castor oil, coconut oil, and in the regional markets, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we have conducted research. A 750 ml bottle of castor oil sells locally, Mr. Speaker, for $125. Mr. Speaker, on the French market, it sells for 150 euros. In my constituency, Mr. Speaker, there is a significant number of persons engaged in castor and coconut oil production. I am happy that in the 2021 budget, that bottles and labels have been made cheaper, and they will be able to earn more money from the sales than before. Mr. Speaker, the Ministry of Agriculture and this government is on a mission to create sustainable jobs and opportunities within the agriculture industry. A major incentive, therefore, to businesses under the 2020-2021 budget is the investments through the Entrepreneur Visa Program. Mr. Speaker, I would like to urge the small business owners, the agro-processors to take advantage of this, Mr. Speaker, as I think this is a significant achievement for this government. Mr. Speaker, Dynamic Dominica is real. The ministry is calling on our young people to form partnerships, small companies, cooperatives to explore the opportunities available in this agriculture industry. Mr. Speaker, the small business unit in the Ministry of Tourism is well equipped to assist you in setting up the business model. The government has demarcated hundreds of acres of land for agriculture use. We are ready to partner with serious persons, Mr. Speaker, to help small groups and other young Dominicans who are interested in leasing government land to establish estate-type farms. Mr. Speaker, before I end, I must express my full support for the budget estimates 2020-2021. Mr. Speaker, over $30 million over a 3-year period is made available as a gift to the economy, Mr. Speaker, for small and medium-sized enterprises, the backbone of most, if not all, of our rural communities. Where our rural communities thrive, Mr. Speaker, the economy will be strong. I am pleased with this measure, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm especially happy for my constituency because we will take full advantage of these business opportunities which are presented in the 2020-2021 budget. Mr. Speaker, I will now urge the commercial banks, Mr. Speaker, to be a little bit more cooperative with our small business persons, Mr. Speaker, because they are the backbone, as I said, of our economy. Mr. Speaker, the concession to manufacturers. My constituents who produce castor oil and coconut oil, I am happy for this concession, as they will now be able to afford labels and proper bottles to make their products attractive. Reduction in land fees. Mr. Speaker, money saved is money earned. We are giving back to Dominicans, Mr. Speaker, during this most challenging time around the world. I urge Dominicans to take advantage of this opportunity to ensure you have a piece of this lovely country. To the young people who will be receiving the 40% off student loans, Mr. Speaker, I urge you to reinvest this money into a small business, real estate, or attaining higher education. Mr. Speaker, for those of us who are under 40, we should explore the opportunity of constructing a home to take advantage of the $10,000 grant. Mr. Speaker, while I'm on this subject, again, Mr. Speaker, I would like to call on the financial institutions to join the efforts of this government to introduce more flexible mortgages and business lending terms to our young people. Mr. Speaker, often they tell you that your debt-to-equity ratio is not suitable for the bank, Mr. Speaker, and our young people who have just out of university are finding it very prohibitive to attain financing from these institutions. Mr. Speaker, as I end, I would like to take the opportunity to thank the hardworking staff of the Ministry of the Blue and Green Economy, Agriculture, and Food Security, National Food Security. I would like to express my profound thanks, Mr. Speaker. It's not easy, but Dr. Thomas, my permanent secretary, does his best. Mr. Speaker, we have much more work to do as we move this industry forward to building a dynamic Dominica. Resilience must be our watchword, Mr. Speaker, as we all know how fragile this industry is to natural disasters, diseases, and other challenges. Our farmers, our fisher folk, I implore you, please put your hurricane safety plans in order. Livestock farmers, please identify safe ground for your animals. The fisher folk, please take swift action in securing your vessel, your engines, your fish nets, and other equipment when called upon to do so. Mr. Speaker, I urge our farmers and our fisher folk, please treat agriculture as a business, not as a pastime. Adopt the best practices which will improve the quality of your yield and the quantity. Keep the records of your activity on the farm. Plant in a way which will ensure that you have a consistent yield to support yourself and your family. Mr. Speaker, farmers and fisher folk need to learn to save and reinvest in their businesses. Mr. Speaker, there is hope. There is promise. Despite the challenges, this Labour Party administration has not failed the people of Dominica. Mr. Speaker, this journey to building a stronger and dynamic Dominica is one which will not be without external financial challenges, seen and unseen, and natural disasters. But, Mr. Speaker, the people of Dominica trust that this Labour Party administration has stood many tests and will continue to invest in building lives, strengthening the economy, and making Dominica a decent and honorable place to call home. Mr. Speaker, I give my full support to the budgetary estimates for the financial year 2020. I also commit to the people of Dominica, especially the farmers, my constituents, that I will work diligently with the Honorable Prime Minister and all my cabinet colleagues to implement these measures. Mr. Speaker, this is my contribution to the 2020-21 budget, Mr. Speaker. Unless I can assist this House further, I thank you.
I recognize Senator Honorable Nichols Esprit. Senator, you can proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to give my unwavering support to this 2020-21 budget brilliantly presented by our dear Honorable Prime Minister, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, before I go much further, there is an issue that a lot of people have been raising with me, and that is an issue which relates to the abandonment of the Salisbury constituency, Mr. Speaker. This issue, Mr. Speaker, is not a new issue, but it is an issue unique to the United Workers' Party, because in the year 2000 up to 2009, the UWP candidate for the Wesley constituency did the same thing to the people of the Wesley constituency, where he lived overseas and came down once every free sitting to represent the people, Mr. Speaker. And this we've seen happening again. What I can say to the people who ask me to bash the PAL rep for Salisbury, I can say to them, I will not do that. Because a few months ago, I offered myself to serve the people of Salisbury, and the people chose to elect party over the best person to represent them. So in local parlance, they have to take what they get. I can say to the people who stood with me, I can say to the people who stood with the Prime Minister, and I can say to the people who stood with the Dominican Labour Party in the Salisbury constituency, Shanks Nichols Esprit has your back and will be there for you. And that brings me to the next point, Mr. Speaker, that in the elections of 2019, the Dominican Labour Party offered 21 men and women, all dedicated to do one thing for the country and for their constituencies, that is to represent and better the lives of the people which they offered themselves for, Mr. Speaker. And it is clearly manifested by our utterances and by the actions of this government and by the actions of the Prime Minister. As opposed to the candidates which were offered by the opposition United Workers' Party, all, Mr. Speaker, we saw the actions and we hear the utterances. And I can say with no objection that every single 21 of them only came into politics for an ulterior motive of power, Mr. Speaker. It's clear. The member for Marigot only contested to be the Prime Minister. The member for Salisbury only contested to be the Minister of Facebook. The member, the senator from the Kalinago territory only contested to be the Minister of Health. And the senator from Penville contested to shadow the Prime Minister Roosevelt's carrot burns, Mr. Speaker. No, the senator, Maslin, he fancies himself being a young Roosevelt's carrot burn, Mr. Speaker. And I can go on and on. Monel Williams, she contested to be the Minister of Youth.
You can call names in this honourable house unless
okay,
the person
Mr.
is
Speaker,
sitting.
yes. I take back Monel Williams. But for those who are there, the Senator John Finn contested to be the Minister of Education. So every one of them came with an expectation of being a minister and so on. Whereas those of us on this side only contested to serve and better the lives of the people of Dominica. And that is why the people of Dominica elected 18-3 the Dominica Labour Party. Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I heard Senator Clement Maslin yesterday. Maslin, he said he's your cousin Blackmore. That's what he said yesterday. And I want to advise him that there's a saying, when a man is down, keep him down. And I'm going to advise him, Mr. Speaker, that his current leader is down. Because yesterday, on Wednesday, you heard the leader of the opposition present. The only thing that was unique to the leader of the opposition, well, he calls himself leader of the parliamentary opposition. So the only thing that was unique to the leader of the parliamentary opposition on Wednesday was his voice. He lacked clarity. He was unfocused. He had no content. As a matter of fact, because he knew he had nothing to say, he deliberately confronted with you, Speaker, to burn time. Because he knows that he had to occupy the time that the Prime Minister and Minister of Finance took to present. So he was using all delay tactics to burn time because he had nothing to say. And what was very telling, Mr. Speaker, is that your leader is presenting, and not for one paragraph, not for one word, not for one composition that any member of his side ever applauded him. That's how weak the leader of the opposition presentation was. And I know that Senator Maslin is interested in being the leader of the United Workers' Party. So my advice to him, Mr. Speaker, is whilst a man is down, keep him down. Now is a good time to attack and go for the leadership of the United Workers' Party. And I think he will make it. I think he will make it, because if his members not clapping for him when he spoke, but they clap for Senator Maslen, Bossman, you have the support of your colleagues. You can go for the leadership. Yes. You can go for the leadership. Mr. Speaker, when you listen to the members on the opposition side, every single one of them, and the member for Roseau South said it, every single one of them, money, CBI. And the Bible reminds us in Matthew that by the abundance of thy heart, thy mouth speaketh. And you know what that means? All I see from the members of the opposition is that what they're saying to us, without actually saying it, is, boy, if we were in office, what we would do with that CBI money. Yeah. And it's clear, you know, Mr. Speaker, because I will deal with it a little bit later on. How can you be representing people, or you offered yourself to contest, even if you didn't make it, just like myself? So there's nothing good you see happening? You live in constituencies where millions of dollars, if we take one issue, housing, if we go to Cassibrus, if we go to Grand Fond, so you cannot stand here on behalf of the people, the beneficiaries of an apartment, to say, even if I am not a supporter of Labour, even if I am not a fan of the Prime Minister, but say right when it is right. See, if it's good, say it's good. Thank you. You don't even want to say the PAL rep or the Prime Minister. Thank you, Labour Party, thank you, the government, for giving the people a house to shelter themselves during, you could even say it so to him, only better. Thank you to the Almighty God for securing the lives of these people. Not one of them. All you hear is CBI, money. And Mr. Speaker, I made note of the member for Roseau North and the leader of the parliamentary opposition when they constantly make reference to non-Dominicans selling our birthright. Mr. Speaker, I want to ask, and they're not there. They like to speak and run, so you will not focus on the things they said to reply to them. And they know most of the things that they say are untrue, but they say it to appeal to their base. And that's why we have to come here and debunk these things. So, for example, Mr. Speaker, when they speak of people under the CBI, my question to them is, are you saying that Ian Edwards, the promoter of Tranquility Bay, right in Salisbury, a constituency and a village, I can even say owned by the UWP for over 30 years. That may be not the correct thing to say, but since 1990, the United Workers' Party has won that seat. And that project is right in the Salisbury constituency. And not for once you will hear the minister responsible for Facebook put out an ad saying, thank you to God, if I were to use the words of the Minister of Housing, for having Ian Edwards, a local, a Dominican, under the CBI program, develop this program there for these people. And Mr. Speaker, I can say to you, there are people from the village of Salisbury employed in the project. I go further, and I speak of Mr. Lawrence, down in the Portsmouth constituency, Anichi, employing locals, and he's a local developer. We speak of Point Michel, and we speak of Jungle Bay. So my question to the members of the opposition, are you saying these people are not local? Because you keep claiming that the people working under the CBI or doing development are foreigners. Look, I call for you, Nassif, Secret Bay, Gregoire Nassif. All these, the 40 young, look it right here. Brilliant, changing the landscape of Roseau. All these are local people benefiting under the CBI program, and you cannot come here and say thank you. Your supporters work at these places. You're not happy that your supporters are employed? And you keep coming and give people the impression out there that nothing is happening. Nothing is happening, Mr. Speaker. None of us, as a matter of fact, let me rephrase it. All of us on the government side, even if we were to start listing development and programs and policies of this government to benefit the people of Dominica, we would not be able to do so in one sitting. We would not be able to do so. Salisbury, where we have not even won, or we did not win, if I start listing blessings and name them one by one, we would go through lunchtime, and all 4 o'clock I would be there listing, and that's a fact. That's no exaggeration, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, before I go to my next point, I want to highlight to the nation how valuable the Prime Minister is to us in the Labour Party and in Dominica, Mr. Speaker. And there's a principle in chemistry, Mr. Speaker. I know you're familiar with it. It's called the periodic table. And that is the table where elements are listed and have values given to them. So, for example, carbon, the chemical symbol for carbon is C. It is one of the most important elements in the periodic table because it forms the base of plant and animal cells. Right. It is number 6 in the periodic table. Mr. Speaker, it is one of the few elements in the periodic table with what you call an isotope. An isotope.
But member, you are in terms of relevance. You need to get to the point.
Yes, I'm getting to the point. Mr. Speaker, I'm getting to the point. I'm getting to the point. Mr. Speaker, for relevance and for your reference, I am using that analogy to describe the value of the Minister of Finance and the Prime Minister to the country. And before I reach where I'm going, I will tell you where I'm going. I am going to refer to the Prime Minister as a diamond, not because of its value monetarily, but because of how diamond is formed. That is where I'm going, Mr. Speaker. So carbon has 2 isotopes. One is graphite, the other is diamond. Diamond is the hardest element known to human beings on Earth. It is formed under high temperature and high pressure. And here I am coming to the point, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister, Honorable Roosevelt Skerrit, took over leadership of Labour and Dominica in trying times. We had the untimely passing of 2 political leaders and prime ministers. And we came into austerity brought on us by the United Workers' Party. So that is pressure. And I can say to us, in this honorable house, that Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit formed under pressure, took us out of austerity from UWP into prosperity. And I can list some of the pressures that he went through. No, I'm good, thank you. We have Erica, something many leaders would buckle under and fail. We had, after Erica, in short space of time, we had Maria. And even we have not even gone out of Maria, we have Mr. COVID. And everybody on island, including myself, was expecting to hear a budget with a few taxes here and there to collect money to augment for the losses that the country has faced. Instead, we've still seen goodies being given to the people. So we are in prosperity. We are able to pay our loans. And the nice word we use for that on the paper is debt amortization, which simply means paying our loan. We have not defaulted on any of our loans. We have not defaulted on any of our social obligations to our people, less fortunate people. The people who are 70 years and older still receive their $300. We've gone further, Mr. Speaker, and we gave out packages to people who would not be able to buy food during that hard COVID time. All that, and we still did not put $1 of tax on your back. And if I did know better, because the Prime Minister is my personal friend, I would say he's hiding from us the fact that he has a mint in Dominica making money. But he doesn't. He's only super brilliant, and that's why I refer to him as a diamond, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to go before I give a report. Though not being the Pal Rep of Salisbury, I'm obliged to say the good things that the Dominican Labour Party government has done in and for the Salisbury constituency. But before I go to that, Mr. Speaker, for your information, I want to talk about $32,000. And I may try to put it in a different spin, to use your word, Mr. Speaker, spin. Because there's a blanket of ingratitude and disrespect for authority and offices in Dominica. And it is mostly fueled by the utterances of the leaders of the opposition. And I say leaders not necessarily meaning the leader himself, but the leadership, all the senators and the few elected members and the party executive on their radio station. They spew ingratitude and disrespect for authority. We saw that when we were constructing the house for the president. The house for the president has nothing to do, Mr. Speaker, I'm just going to mention it, not in no negative way, has nothing to do with child sovereign. If we are constructing a house for the president, it is for the office of the president. And if we pay in $32,000 to rent a house for the Prime Minister, it has nothing to do with Roosevelt's carrot. It has everything to do with respect for the office and position of Prime Minister. And my question to the opposition, particularly the leader of the parliamentary opposition, is that, are you saying to me that if you were the Prime Minister, you would refuse $32,000? And I can answer that question. The answer is no, because you're not nothing, and we see you boasting $10,000 treadmill, $5,000 dog. So you can imagine if your Prime Minister is $100,000 house you would want to rent. Yes. But it would be good for you, and it's not good for somebody else. The issue is not, and we raise the issue and we try to come here and talk about $32,000. What is that? It is for the position and the office of Prime Minister. And if we had respect and gratitude, we would not be raising that issue. Because Dominica is an entire country, a state on its own. And you're telling me that the office of Prime Minister is not worthy and worth $32,000? That's what you're saying? I'm asking, but they're not there to answer me, or at least on our side. Because, Mr. Speaker, I mean, let's be fair. Out of all the good that has come out of Dominica, and Dominica being a country, and we raise issue and talk about people's salary, everywhere in the world, there are millions of homeless people in the United States, and it is the #1 economy in the world. That prevents America paying the president $1 million a year. No, the people have respect for the office of president. And we need to teach our young people to have respect for authorities and position. And authority is not a personal or a person. It is an office. Mr. Speaker, 7 months ago, there was the office of Speaker, but it wasn't you. It was somebody else. Sometime in the future, it will be somebody else. Today, we have our diamond there as our Prime Minister. In the future, there will be somebody else, but there will be the office of Prime Minister. And we have to learn to respect our offices. And sometimes you hear them come and talk about crime on the rise and vagrancy. It is their utterances that causing that, you know. It is their utterances. When you try to give people the impression that the office of Prime Minister is so low, that a little mere $32,000 is too much to rent an office, a home or a house. For the office of Prime Minister, what you telling the people? You telling them they can walk and disrespect ministers, walk and disrespect parliamentarians, and they're the ones get vexed fastest, you know. If somebody tell them something, they fast to tell you, I'm a member of parliament. As for the member for Salisbury, his favorite word is disrespect. I'm the pal rep, and the Prime Minister come to the constituency not telling me. So you realize that the offices are to be respected, but your utterances do exactly and directly opposite to that. And that I have a problem with. We need to start respecting offices in Dominica. Mr. Speaker, I am not the panel for Salisbury, but I must report all the good works that the...
Senator, you have 9 more minutes.
That time going fast, Paul.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the Honourable Senator be granted an additional 10 minutes to complete his presentation.
Seconded, Mr. Speaker.
It has been moved and seconded that Senator Esprey receives an additional 10 minutes to complete his presentation. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. You have an additional 10 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Salisbury constituency comprises of Salisbury, Cooley-Bistro, and Monrachet. And I will not claim nothing that's not mine, so I will not say it's my constituency. I live there, I grew up there, I went to school there, I build there, and I'm there. There are people who have trusted politically in me, and I have committed to serve them, and we've done that excellently. And I can say to the people of Dominica that the Dominica Labour Party has paid significant time, energy, and effort on the Salisbury, not with the view of winning it, but with the view of considering the people as Dominican and doing what we have to do for each and every Dominican. And that's why I'm part of the Dominica Labour Party, because the Dominica Labour Party is welcoming and very balanced and equitable in the distribution and delivery of service to the people of Dominica, including the Salisbury constituency. Mr. Speaker, we will never stop talking about Maria. Just like in the past, we never stopped talking about Hurricane David. Hurricane Maria came, and it has outdone David, and now we will always refer to Hurricane Maria. And the opposition vexed when we do that. But the reality is the reality. Maria was there. We saw the destruction it posed on Dominica, and we must make reference to its destruction. Having said that, every single school in Dominica was affected one way or the other. Some worse than others, some less, but all were. And I say that to say that to date, the only school which was destroyed by Hurricane Maria and has been repaired, refurbished, and ready to house the students in the new school year is the Salisbury Government School. Is that a government that is political? Those of you who pass Salisbury on your way down at night, you will see a whole set of lights shining bright and a reflection of yellow. That is the Salisbury Government School. Millions of dollars spent on it. And Mr. Speaker, one of the most badly affected schools, or actually school just disappeared, was a school in the Prime Minister's constituency. And he didn't say, I am Prime Minister, I'm going to fix my school. We fixed the Salisbury Government School. And then you'll hear people go on queue and all, oh, it's political. Political? Mr. Speaker, we distributed close to 500 care packages. And no one was left behind. All the vulnerables were taken care of. And you know, I just get pressure for these things, Mr. Speaker. Because you are in an area where you're in minority, the majority of people would be the other side. So when our people see majority of our packages go to the other side, they make noise with me. But they are vulnerable and deserving of these packages, and we will deliver it to them in a non-political manner. Mr. Speaker, I mentioned the hotel earlier, so I'll not go back to the hotel in Salisbury. Mr. Speaker, agriculture. And we heard the minister articulate the World Bank program, and I can even go back to Maria, because immediately after Maria, we distributed cash grants to the farmers of Dominica. And I can say here in this house that the constituency of Salisbury got over $1 million in cash grants from the program. And the figure was $18.9 million. And one constituency, a constituency that did not vote for the Dominican Labour Party receive in excess of $1 million. 209 small farmers at $3,000 and 69 at $10,000. And not for once did the member for Salisbury, the minister responsible for Facebook, came here and ever said thank you. Instead, he came here.
Senator, you cannot keep, you should not be calling him a minister.
I withdraw that, Mr.
responsible for Facebook.
Not for once did he come here and say thank you for putting $1 million in my constituency. Not for once. Instead, he came here making noise for his two brothers. You see where they are? No care and concern about the people who voted for him and benefited. But he came here, and I can say it because it's on the record. When he stood there, I was right there sitting in the gallery as a stranger who was a former member at the time, when he said, my brothers did not get money, none of whom were farmers at the time. That's the deception of the United Workers' Party. And I can say to the public here that a number of bona fide farmers, most of whom are UWP supporters, registered and has benefited from the World Bank program. And we keep saying World Bank program, World Bank program. It is the government's program. It was our Diamond, the Prime Minister, who went to the World Bank and negotiated that program. And sometimes we keep saying World Bank and making it sound like World Bank came and said, Dominica, here. No! Our Prime Minister went to the World Bank on behalf of the farmers of Dominica and secured that money for us. And we are benefiting. The farmers of the Salisbury constituency are benefiting. Some of them made 2 trips with their vans for fertilizer. And I know they're happy because very few of them come to me about fertilizer because they don't know what to do with it. Some of them take too much. Some of them boasting of their brush cutter. Boy, that's working good. The few of them who took shredders say, boy, I just pushing the grass in that and that coming out fine. That is what the Dominica Labour Party government is doing for the farmers of Dominica, and nothing to do with politics. As a matter of fact, Mr. Speaker, the only hindrance to the World Bank program are a few UWP farmers who decide not to register so they can benefit under the program, so they can use their non-beneficiary by their own action to come and criticize this government. But the program is simple. You have to come, you have to register, you have to show your land tenure, your land ownership, you have to show your sales, your extension officer has to verify that you're farming or you're about to farm. You register and you benefit. Simple ABC. That is what we're doing for agriculture. And I wanted to touch on agriculture a little later as it relates to the budget, but I will just do one thing there. And these are the things that the Dominica Labour Party is doing for farmers. Mr. Speaker, education. We have over 23 young people from the Salisbury constituency out there doing their studies. All, one way or the other, sponsored by part or full, this government. Some of them, their parents, we know already. But we know education is the way out of poverty. So we will not deny somebody because they're more than their father's child. Workers here and there. We know the children are our future. So we invest in them with their education, and they are out there studying in universities around the world to come back and contribute to the development of Dominica. That is what the Labour Party is doing for Salisbury. And to the people of Kulibistri, yes, some of you get eager and figure it's too long, but things are what they are. It is what it is, if we say it sometimes. And I can say to the people of Kulibistri, their relocation program is on the way, and they will benefit from housing as well. They will benefit from housing as well. You know, Mr. Speaker, there are so many things I can speak of the Salisbury constituency, all of which are there for the people to see. As we speak, we're doing work on the feeder road leading to Kahome. And even before that, there were miles of the feeder road done. with concrete, 5 inches of concrete, and nobody on the opposition said thank you. There's miles of road done in the Marigot constituency from under the BAM, Melvin Hall Road. The bridge was replaced in Marigot. Nobody said thank you, but these are things which were done. I heard the Senator Joseph talk about feeder roads in Lapland. We did feeder roads in Lapland under the BAM, and you heard the PAL rep articulate roads which will be done. We've done much work. We've spent, in the last financial year, we spent over $20 million on feeder roads. But as it is, Dominica and its terrain and its rainfall and its topography and its geology and geography makes life, for construction in particular, very difficult for roads. Because as we would all appreciate, the roads leading to farms are usually on hills and in heavy rainfall areas. And we have heavy erosion of these roads. So even when you do interventions, 3-4 weeks later, a heavy shower may just wash it away. And that's the reality, Mr. Speaker. And nobody says thank you for what done, but everybody makes noise for what the figure should be done. And life is continual. Things will always be needing to happen. We heard the Minister of Health. He spoke of all the great things we have achieved. He also mentioned all the things we need to do and we are going to do. And that's why governments are there. If one person could do everything, the person would have done everything, and all of us would be sitting, sipping wine, and playing on the beach. No, life is continually. When you build something, 3-4 years later, it requires maintenance. And not even 3-4 years. 3-4 months later, it required maintenance. So there will always be things to do. But I'm happy, elated, that we have done much. Yes, there are things to happen, but we have done much. I am satisfied that we have done much. Mr. Speaker, if I go directly into the budget, there are 3 areas, I will not elaborate too much, that were significantly highlighted in this budget, this year's budget. Agriculture, which I spoke a little about, tourism, Mr. Minister, Miss Minister, and Madam Minister, and small business. And these are the 3 pillars of the Dominican economy. Small business, agriculture, and tourism. And significant focus were placed on these 3 pillars of the economy. That is how committed this government is in building this economy and continuing the prosperity that the Prime Minister has brought us into. Because when you assist small business, you assist employment. You assist in growth. When you assist tourism, you assist in building the economy, and we mentioned what agriculture does for the economy. And these are the 3 pillars that this budget took into consideration significantly to better the lives of the people of the Commonwealth of Dominica, Mr. Speaker. That is why I have no objection to 110% support this budget, because this budget is forward-thinking and it's futuristic, not only by the digital economy, but by the positive impact that this budget is going to have on the lives of the citizens of Dominica, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, in closing, I want to mention one thing. Many speakers before me mentioned them. But I remember being on that side of the House, and once I stood there, well, maybe twice, and I said the number one, PM, you remember? The number one infrastructural development that would impact Dominica positively is the construction of an international airport. And today, that's why I'm on this side, Today, I am pleased to announce further to the people, because many speakers before me has articulated on that we, the Commonwealth of Dominica, under the leadership of Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit, will give Dominica an international airport. And you know why I'm sure it will happen? Because every single thing that Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit has said he will do for Dominica, he has done. So I am assured that the international airport is coming, I want to thank the people who listen to me. I want to thank all the members of cabinet. I want to thank all the members of parliament who supported the budget. I want to thank the people of Salisbury too and the people of Dominica generally for bearing faith in and keeping faith with the Dominica Labour Party and standing in calls for boots on the ground and so on and not being perturbed by this and being there with the government because you understand when the going get tough, the toughs get going. And this Labour Party has gone all out tough to ensure that your lives and the lives of your children, your grandparents are better. And you can see it through this budget. That is why I am fully supporting this budget. With these few words, Mr. Speaker, I thank you. God bless each and every one of us. God bless Dominica.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the House be adjourned until suspended until 2:30 this afternoon.
Seconded.
It has been moved that the House be suspended until 2:30 this afternoon. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. The House stands suspended until 2:30 this afternoon.